What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the shop. This is the Ellwood and Sons Woodworking entry into Wood by Wright's hand tool build off and giveaway. This is a dovetail saw that started as a gent style saw that has been converted to a more western style pistol grip. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. If you've watched other videos on my channel, you'll know this is the second time that I've done this. This is based off of a video by the HandToolery. I will leave a link down below and try to add one in the cards. The plans are downloaded from Blackburn Tools, and I followed his video as a guide. This second handle came out much better, and I did some things differently that I learned from the first. I start by getting a square piece of stock that has the grain that's fairly straight that I want, and apply the pattern and mark out the holes that will be used later to secure the blade inside the handle. Learning lessons from the last time I did this, I am going to cut the kerf for the blade before I cut out the shape of the handle. Having a square piece of stock to cut certainly makes it easier. I use a marking gauge on one of the pieces of offcut to ensure that I can find it as absolute center as possible, and then I will use the blade that I'm going to insert to cut the kerf. This actually took quite a while and was a very long process, but taking the time here certainly makes it worthwhile when you see the end result. I decided to use the scroll saw to cut out the shape of the handle this time. I was hoping it would give me a little better cut on the curves and require less work later, and I think it turned out to be a good decision. This is the first time I've ever videotaped anything on my scroll saw, so I apologize for the terrible camera view. Since I don't have an oscillating spindle sander, I just used some sanding attachments on the drill press to clean up some of the curves, the radiuses, get them as close to ready as possible. Just makes for a lot less work down the road. Once I've got those pretty much done, it was a matter of using files and rasps to get a shape that I liked, that felt comfortable in my hand, and give it a rounded effect and clean up all the hard edges. This actually took a lot of time to do and get right, but it was definitely a labor of love and worth it. Once I had the basic shape of the handle I wanted, it was time to focus my attention on the blade. Putting the saw in my vise, I took the gent style handle off, which came off surprisingly easy. Using the Blackburn Tools pattern, I carefully mark out the angle that I need to change the back of the blade to match the handle profile to get it to hang correctly, and then cut it up with a hacksaw. In the past, I used an angle grinder to get the shape of the blade, and that was just a terrible idea. After cutting it with the hacksaw, I took it over to the grinder and very slowly got the shape of the blade down to my lines and where I wanted it, making sure to cool it. The thin blade itself actually didn't generate a lot of heat, but the back certainly did. Once I had the blade shaped, I got the thickness of the back and began marking out where to chisel down so the back can set into the handle. This is another place where really taking the time to be accurate and get a good fit really paid off. This was a fairly time-consuming process, and it's really essential in making sure that the blade hangs on the handle the right way. This took a couple of hours to get done, but again, I think it was well worth it in the end. Next up, I use a 7/16 brad point bit, and we'll drill the holes in the handle for the hardware, going down just to the point where the brad point makes contact through the back, and then flipping it over to avoid blowout. Then I'll mark the holes for the blade itself, and we'll drill those out on the drill press. I'm including one of my errors in here just to make somebody else who might try this aware of it. I had a scary moment at the drill press. The moment that it went through the blade, you can see what happens. Fortunately, there was no damage to me or the blade, and for the second hole I used the clamp with a wooden block to hold it in place and got through that just fine. Then I decided to use the propane torch to bring out the grain a little bit on this poplar. It is kind of a neat effect. I'm not sure if I would do it again, but it turned out looking okay. After a couple coats of boiled linseed oil, this is a Wood by Write sponsored event after all, I applied a couple spray coats of a finish, and then it was just a matter of assembly. I used 1/4-inch brass connecting bolt and caps that I found at my local hardware store. I did have to trim them down a little bit to match the width of the handle, but it turned out great. I think they might be a little big for the handle, but that's what makes it unique and homemade, I guess. I really enjoyed this project. Doing it the second time after learning some lessons is even more fun. I want to thank James Wright for hosting this event, and thank you so much for watching.